neck race. They stopped in the middle of their journey to the starting line, and a Navy lieutenant, a female lieutenant, had her father's ashes, and she was going to sprinkle over Lake Michigan. He was a naval officer also. And we got out there and stopped the boat, played some dirge, funeral dirge of some sort, and she took the lid off the ashes of her father and threw them out over the lake. And the wind came up and blew it all the way back. And everybody. And she turned around and she says, "My father never did want to leave the Navy." Those were great. And the Russians are big on icebreakers up near Alaska and Vladivostok. And they wanted an American to sail on their new icebreaker called the Morning Dove. Only the Russians could name an icebreaker the Morning Dove. But it was an invitation to be at Vladivostok, and it was a 31-day trip to Anchorage, Alaska. And just being new at the Tribune, I couldn't take 31 days off, but it would have been a lot of fun. And I would have had to learn some Russian, but that I didn't care for. But the Russians are ignoble people. They, in lieu of me not coming, they accepted a bronze. I did a Brezhnev. My hobby is bronze casting. And I did this life-size head of Brezhnev. And it's in the Kremlin where nobody will ever see it. Not even the Russians. A few stories. I did a cartoon on a naval accident in the Brooklyn Naval Yard. A submarine was backing out of its berth and ran into a carrier. Much damage, millions of dollars of damage, and it was drug-related. And I did a cartoon of the Navy carrier refueling at sea with fuel on one side and drugs on the other. And that didn't fly with the Navy. And the publisher, Stanton Cook, got a phone call from the Naval Chief of Staff and said, "Locher doesn't know much about our Navy. We're going to invite him out to the carrier for a week." And that was exciting. I had to be in Norfolk at a certain time, and the plane came in, and it makes a weekly trip out to the carrier, bringing the latest films and mail to the sailors and things like that. And we flew out. The carrier was 600 miles off of the coast of Virginia in the Atlantic Ocean. And by my watch on the plane, we should have spotted the carrier by now. And I said to the pilot, it was just a young little mustache on his lip, young guy. I said, "Lieutenant, have you spotted the carrier yet?" He said, "Sir, we're hopelessly lost." And I thought, oh, jeez. I got a chill up my spine. And then we broke through the overcast, and there was a carrier out in the middle of the lake. It was the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. The plane is going 124 miles an hour when it touches down, and it stops in 4 seconds. And if that won't take the lid out of your belly button, the pilot said, "Put your head up against a bumper so you don't go through the windshield." I said, "Well, thanks for the warning." I could hear through the earpiece that the captain says, "When Locher lands, bring him up to the bridge right away." And the plane landed, taxied, shut down. There was a Navy bosun there, and he took me up to the bridge. The captain says, "Welcome aboard." I said, "Thank you." He says, "I know why you're here, because you did a nasty thing about the U.S. Navy." I said, "Well, maybe I can defend myself." He said, "Well, we'll have a little give and take. But," he said, "I want you to know if there's anything you want to know about this Navy, don't be afraid to ask. Ask anybody, anytime, anybody you see. Don't go without asking a question. The only bad question is the one that isn't told. So, anything you want to know?" And I said, "Yes, could I see the nuclear reactor?" And he says, "Nope." I said, "Captain, we're off to a great start." He was he was an Annapolis graduate. He was a one-star admiral. And he said, "How would you like to steer the ship?" I said, "I don't think I can hurt anything out here. Yeah, I'd like to try it." And the helm of this 100,000-ton carrier is as big as a biplane. And I took the helm, and he says, "Bring it to 240 degrees. You can see above the degree heading on the compass." I was about had to make about a 30-degree turn. And I did, and he says, don't overshoot because there's a lot of weight here and it'll coast a while. I want you to be in position for 21 new pilots that are coming out for their first carrier landing. And I said, you trusted me with that? He said, yeah. Well, 19 out of the 21 pilots made the landing. And the carrier itself, the compass didn't change after I turned. I said, the compass must be broken, sir. He said, no, wait just a minute. And I went, zing, zing, and the compass heading was right in front of me. And I said, how come it was a delay? And he says, that's a satellite confirmation of your return. And I thought, holy, they really know what they're talking about. But it was eclectic. And he had a captain's dinner that night. And the ship was the Teddy Roosevelt. And as I walked in, they had all the Teddy's papers. His Nobel Peace Prize was showing, and there was some statuary of him. And we had a brandy. The captain says, tonight we toast all those voyagers who came across the same spot and never returned home. And the toast to Captain Cook, Magellan, and the Norseman, things like that. It was very touching. And we sat down for dinner, and he said, Locher thinks it's a free meal. He's going to sing for his supper. He says, I'm going to ask you one question. And if you can answer it, you'll be a friend of the Navy forever. If not, it'll be a tough week. And I thought, what am I doing here? And after our brandy, we sat down, and the Admiral stands up and he says, I got one question for you. And I was expecting a good answer. Why are we here? And the only thing I could think of was Plato, 4,000 years ago, says, to prepare for peace, prepare for war. He says, damn it, that's it. This is your friend of the Navy. And they showed me everything on that plane except the nuclear propulsion system. It was just remarkable to see these dedicated Navy people and what they do to serve. They have less space than a lot of countries have for their people. And you can get a high school diploma and work your way through college on a carrier if you so desire. And they get extra points for all that. So my hat's off to the Navy. But when I was fortunate enough to win the Pulitzer, when you win the Pulitzer, you have to, the city room shuts down for half hour or so, and they have a lot of champagne. You have to give a little speech. The editor crawls up on top of the desk and he pulls me up and he says, you ready to talk? I said, yeah, I'd like to say a few words. He says, just remember, today's Pulitzer wraps tomorrow's fish. That's the vote of confidence, right? But it was really something. When you win a Pulitzer, judges get certain rules to follow. The cartoon has to be a good drawing, and a good meaning, a caricature, a theme, and a historical background, plus a caricature. And people look at a cartoon only spend 8 seconds on it. And one of the judges came up to me at the Washington Press Club. He says, we voted, we liked your cartoons. And I said, thank you very much for the vote, I appreciate that. He says, you know how you got it? And I said, no, what happened? He said, well, you're handed a sheet of paper of all the rules you're supposed to follow. There's 12 rules. And we knocked on the door and asked the foreman to come in. Could we make a change? And the foreman says, what do you want to do? He said, we'd like to add a 13th rule. I said, what was that? What you have in the 13th rule? He says, forget the first 12. It was an honor to do that. Kind of nice. George, our good mayor, referred to a machine gun before. When I was drawing Dick Tracy, Chester Gould was the developer of Dick Tracy. He said, I want a real accurate machine gun drawn in the last panel on Sunday. And we meet at the Tribune and read stories and pencil out what the week's cartoons were going to be. And I said, you have a machine gun in the last panel? He says, yeah. I said, I'll go to the library and get some pictures and do it very accurately. He says, don't bother, up on the cloak rack in the coat room back there, there's a machine gun up on the shelf, take that home. I said, okay. He's the boss. And he left for his train about 5:40. I left about 10 to 6, something like that. And I reached back in the closet, and sure enough, there's a Thompson submachine gun back there. It wasn't loaded. Georgia wasn't loaded.
Oh, good.
And I wrapped it up, put it under my arm, and started walking across to Union Station. I used to walk from the Tribune Tower to Union Station. And I left the front door and stride toward the station, and I heard somebody say, "Sir, can we speak to you a minute?" And you know the feeling. You know somebody's talking to you, but I kind of ignored it. I kept right on walking. I said, "Sir, would you stop?" And I turned around, it was one of Chicago's finest. He says, "What do you got in the bag?" I said, "Leftover pizza." That's the worst thing I could have said. And the cop says, "Sit in the back seat of the squad cars." I said, "Sir, I got to catch my train." He says, "We'll handle that, don't worry about it." And he says, "Unwrap the package." And I said, "Officer, there's a story here." He says, "I know there is. Chester Boone called us and told us to give him a ride to the station." My very good friend Chester. I got even with it now. I'd come to work early, about 15 minutes early when we got down there. And over a period of 2 months, I lowered his drawing board 6 inches. Very slow. I had a wrench there. And one day he's working with me like this. And he says, "You got even with me, didn't you?" He was fun to work with. When they did the Dick Tracy movie, Warren Beatty called and said, "I'd like you to go over the script." It was a 9-inch thick script. He says, "Ace out everything that Dick Tracy wouldn't do." I did. It took about a month to do it. Quite comprehensive. It was a good plot, and I hope you all saw the movie. We needed the money. And I sent it back to Warren Beatty. He says, "Thank you for doing that, and could you send me 1,000 sketches of Dick Tracy?" And it took another month to do all those. And we did, and he patterned those heads you see behind Graham over there, those rubber masks. And we thought that was the end of it. He said, "Thanks a lot." And I was an official technical advisor on the strip, on a film. And we got a phone call one day, and it was from American Airlines. It said, "There's a plane waiting for you and your family to go to Orlando for the premiere." I said, "Yeah, that's very nice. That's great. Who's it from?" It says, "Warren Beatty." And this is why movies cost so much. He had the whole first-class section reserved for my family, which was really something else. And it was quite elegant. When we got down there, and there was a guy holding a sign that said Locher, and took us to a limo. And he didn't go toward the hotel. He went to an airport. And we had a helicopter and a pilot for 6 days. They took us wherever we went, and we had free credit cards. It could have been a nicer treat. We got to talk to Dustin Hoffman, who was one of the stars in the movie, and Madonna. Madonna was fantastic in the film. Whatever you might think of her, she was great. And they were filming one scene where Dick Tracy has to arrest her. She's a nightclub singer, and after she finished singing, he went up to her and said, "I'm going to take you down to the station to make you sweat." And she went off the script. She said, "Why don't we both go down to the station and sweat together?" But a sidebar, we had the helicopter wherever we went, and he said, "Do you play golf?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll take you out to the golf course tomorrow." He said, "I'll pick you up, be up on the roof at a certain time." I said, "I didn't bring any clubs." He said, "We'll have clubs for you." And we went over to the golf course, and there's a driving range at the Orlando Municipal Golf Course. And golfers who were practicing to swing got all the way, and the helicopter lands, and he says, "Don't get out of the helicopter until I tell you. I'll come around and open the door for you." He says, "Let's make them, who the hell is that?" And he did just that. He opened the door, I went out, and he opened the sliding trunk in the helicopter, pulled out a set of clubs, and handed me a phone. He says, "Call me when you're ready to go home." And I played a round of golf, and on ninth hole, when you make the turn, there's a leaderboard. Had my name on it. This is why it really costs a lot to make a movie. But it was eclectic. It was really fun. But one time we had our cartoonist convention, editorial cartoonist convention in Oklahoma City. And we went to one of the finer hotels called the Land Rush. And we went into the bar and toasted the state of Oklahoma. Got a few more drinks than we needed. But there was a sign in the lobby that says, anybody that wants to visit Dale Robertson's ranch tomorrow, please be at the bus stop outside the hotel. Excuse me. And Dale Robertson was a cowboy actor, and he had a ranch about 30 miles outside of Oklahoma City. And he raised quarter horses. And we were interested in seeing the horses. We walked out. There was another couple standing there looking at the horses too. And I said, Mary, they look very familiar. And she said, that's Bo Derek and John Garrett. And we went over and introduced ourselves. And they were very cordial. I said, are you buying horses? They said, yes, we're buying some quarter horses from Dale Robertson. And are you staying for lunch? They said, yes, we are. They said, why don't you join the cartoonists? And they did. We had a steak dinner, steak lunch, I should say. It was a great, cordial event. Dale Robertson had a grin on his face the whole time we were there. And after the meal, Bo Derek was sitting on a piano bench all by herself. And I went over to her and I said, could I take a picture of you with my wife? She said, sure. And Mary goes over, sits down next to Bo, and I'm focusing on the camera. And Dale Robertson comes up behind me and he says, a pair of tents beats a full house any day. It was really fun. One day we got a phone call, and it was Pat Buchanan, the chief of staff for Ronald Reagan. He says, the president likes your cartoons. I clip them every day and put them on his desk so you can see them, yours and other cartoonists. And he would like you to come and have lunch with him. I said, sign me up. And when I caught the plane, got to the gate, North Gate at 8 a.m., the Marine guard there said, your name, please? And I said, Dick Locher, Chicago Tribune. He scans the clipboard and says, yeah, you're valid. And he put a beeper around, a locator beacon around my neck as if I was going to steal the Civil War. And the Marine led me through the White House until we got to the cabinet room. And Ronald Reagan wasn't there yet, but the whole cabinet was there. And the chiefs of staff and a few Supreme Court judges. And all of these people I recognized as one I had drawn a cartoon about. I thought, this is going to be an inquisition. This isn't going to be enjoyable. And Pat Buchanan says, the president has a jar of jelly beans on his desk. Did you know that? I said, yeah, I put that in the cartoon from time to time. He said, well, let's have some. So you tell people you had some jelly beans that were on the president's desk. And he pours out a bunch of jelly beans in my hand. And I toss them in my mouth one at a time. I went over to talk to him, the Navy chief of staff, and jelly bean hit me on the back of the head. I looked up and it was Pat Buchanan. He's tossing jelly beans. Not to be outdone, I took the ones I had left and threw them at him. And before you knew it, jelly beans are arcing all over the room. And just as we were at the height of the battle, the voice says, gentlemen, the President of the United States. And Reagan strode in and he stepped on a jelly bean. And he lifts his shoe up and he says, Pat, what the hell's going on in here? Pat says, well, we had a little war, sir. And Reagan, I'll never forget what he said. He said, I want to go on record as this is one war I didn't declare. We sat down, had breakfast, we had coffee, and whatever you wanted, in the cabinet room. And the room was loaded with photographers and everything else. And the president said, Dick, you've been on my case pretty hard lately. I had done him as George Gipp in the Notre Dame football movie is. A sign on the White House says, win one for the Gipper, for the geezer. I changed the word Gipper to geezer. He didn't like that at all. And he said, we got to talk about that. Why are you so hard on me? I said, well, bring out the best in you, sir. He says, you're the kind of guy that would stand on the top of the hill and watch the battle down below. And when the war's over, you go down and shoot the wounded. I said, no, sir. We're more like the blind javelin thrower at the Olympics. We don't win a lot of medals, but we keep the crowd alert. He says, can I use that? And he did. He used it later on. But when we had a lot of give and take, and he likes cartoons. He loved them a lot. And lunch time came, and a gloved hand came through my armpit and put a plate in front of me. And the servings members were setting up the plate settings. And they never banged a plate against a spoon, or you never heard a sound. They said, all that stuff was right in front of you. And we had London broil, it was French fries, and au jus that was swimming in the seal of the United States. I said, there's something wrong with this picture. You don't see the seal of the United States being drowned in beef juice. But it was a nice lunch. We had a big hunk of lettuce with some dressing on it, and Jell-O and apple pie. It was really good. And Reagan had a little cup of raspberry sherbet. He said, Mr. President, aren't you going to eat? He says, if I did what you did every day, I'd weigh 300 pounds. He said, I do this 200 times a year. And the raspberry sherbet is a great plenty for me. That was kind of interesting. He said, do you have any questions before we get on with the show? And I thought, oh, geez, another inquisition. And we asked him if that was his real hair. And he says, I thought you were going to ask about the Russian strategic maneuvers around the world. He says, no, your hair is more important right now. We drew characters of them, things like that. They passed them around to the cabinet members. And he said, he stood up and he said, okay, now you're going to sing for your lunch. He says, because I'm president, I'm going to draw a cartoon. And I looked down at the end of the table and there's a drawing tablet, a paper pad. He said, I'm the president of the United States. I'm going to draw my favorite cartoon. And he drew Bringing Up Father, Jigs of Bringing Up Father, which is an old 1930s strip. And it was awful. And he puts his hands on his hips and says, what do you think of that drawing, Dick? I said, now I know why you're president. And I don't know where that came from. I hadn't planned on saying anything. And he said, okay, if you're so good, you try it. So I got up and drew it. And the whole cabinet applauded mine, but they didn't applaud his. He was very charismatic. And he was great. He showed me where Monica Lewinsky's room was before Bill Carter, of course. But if you were in a room and you had your back to the door and he walked in, you know he was in that room. He was just a super individual and a good leader, a good actor. But he says all politicians are actors, but not all actors can be politicians. And I thought you'd like that, Graham. There's an old saying in Washington, people love politics, but they don't like politicians. You're the one that's going to change that. You promise me.
I'll do my best.
That's great. But we'll wind this thing up. I've written a short piece about what it's like to arrive at the ripe old age of 80. If you can sit still for this, you can sit still for anything. Feel free to order drinks. Turning 80 on life's stage. Spotlights dance on murky backdrops. As leftover limelight fades to murmuring applause. Enter stage right and stride purposely to center star. Not in hazy misdirection, but with bright vision, costume, and cue. Staccato kettle drums intrude on quiet anticipation. Orchestra's crescendo as I summon sun and sky for my airy sketches. This is life stage, life script, life part, excuse me, my scene and my act. You are illuminating, fresh, and without my glasses. That's what it's like to turn 80. Daring critics to spout banal reviews. I am in the lights and I defy audiences to appreciate. This is my show, this is now. Swirls of light, swirls of life define my backdrop as I master center stage. I have hung stars in empty darkness. I have created echoes that reverberate still. But now the plots weaken and scripts turn dusty. Lights dim on inner satisfaction. Will I be but bit part? List of clippings and memoirs with tomorrow's scenes in ethereal dimension. And am I now but bit part? I will bow gracefully to exit stage left, but must I withdraw the theaters as the lights dim, playbills fold, and scenery darkens? Must the show close? Know you all that actor I am still. I know that my scripts yet evoke and enthrall. New theaters must be found as certain as I don makeup. I will stride again to center stage, and with rainbow's freshness calling out Act 2. Final curtain is not mine, this is encore time. I say thank you for your help. This is really great.